Once the heart of mixed methods becomes clear, once you understand why some problems require two forms of knowledge, the next step is choosing the design that aligns with the shape of the tension. Mixed methods designs are not interchangeable. They move differently, ask different things of the researcher, and express different relationships between meaning and measurement. Each one grows directly from the research problem and the gap, not from preference or convenience, and each one reveals a different kind of truth about the phenomenon. Mixed methods design is really a question of timing, structure, and intention. Some problems demand that we begin with lived experience, and then build outward toward measurable patterns. Others require us to start with the pattern itself, and then move inward toward human meaning. And some insist that both strands be heard at the same moment, side by side, because neither form of truth can wait for the other. The choice is conceptual, not chronological. It is a matter of what the phenomenon needs, not what the researcher likes. Sequential exploratory designs begin with human experience, the stories, interpretations, and meanings that participants reveal in their own words. This design emerges when the research problem shows that the field does not yet know what to measure or how to define a construct without first understanding it qualitatively. You see this when the literature is scattered, when constructs are underdeveloped, or when the meaning of the phenomenon is unclear. The verbs signal the path: explore, understand, describe, perceive. They belong to a phase that privileges depth and meaning. In the qualitative phase of a sequential exploratory design, the researcher's positionality is one of deep listening. You bracket assumptions. You move slowly. You let participants shape the early contours of the study. The sampling reflects this intention: small, rich, intimate, chosen for depth rather than breadth. Time in this first phase feels immersive. The data is textured, emotional, contextual, carrying the weight of lived experience. And everything you learn here becomes the foundation for what comes next. Only after this meaning is known does the study move toward measurement. Time shifts. The verbs shift. The stance shifts. The researcher begins building, developing survey items, creating variables, shaping instruments, or defining categories rooted in participants' language. Sampling widens. The study moves from the few who tell the story to the many who can reveal its pattern. This phase is analytical, distanced, structured. Quantitative data shows magnitude, frequency, and distribution. How the experiences described in phase 1 appear across a broader population. Integration happens at the hinge, where qualitative meaning becomes quantitative structure. It also happens again at the end, when the researcher compares the findings across both strands to see how they deepen, confirm, or challenge one another. A sequential exploratory study might begin by interviewing students about how AI tools affect their writing confidence, then build a survey that measures those perceptions across a large group. This design is chosen because meaning must precede measurement. Sequential explanatory designs move in the opposite direction. These studies begin with measurable patterns, relationships, differences, or trends that the field can quantify but cannot yet fully understand. The verbs of this beginning phase are analytic: examine, test, compare, predict. The sampling is broad, designed to reveal the structure of the phenomenon. The researcher's positionality here is initially distanced, engaging with the data through analysis before interpretation. But patterns alone rarely tell the whole story. And when the research problem demands explanation, when the gap lies in understanding why the pattern exists, the study turns toward qualitative inquiry. Time shifts again, and so does the verb palette. The study begins to explain, interpret, illuminate. The sampling narrows purposefully, selecting individuals who represent certain subgroups or unexpected results revealed in the quantitative phase. The researcher steps closer, choosing a stance of curiosity and empathy, listening for the meaning beneath the numbers. The qualitative data in this second phase carries the richness of lived experience. It explains, contextualizes, or sometimes complicates what the numbers showed. Integration in sequential explanatory work happens when qualitative meaning sheds light on quantitative structure, when participants' voices make the statistical pattern comprehensible. A sequential explanatory study might examine patterns in teacher retention, then interview teachers from schools with unusually high or low retention to understand the conditions shaping those outcomes. This design is chosen because measurement needs meaning. Convergent mixed methods designs require an entirely different posture. They arise when the research problem contains two equally important questions, one about meaning and one about magnitude, that must be understood at the same time. Neither method can wait for the other. Neither form of knowledge should be subordinated. The verbs reflect this parallel intention: compare, merge, integrate, converge. This design is chosen when the gap lies in the need to hold two forms of truth together in the same interpretive moment. Time in a convergent design feels like a braid. The qualitative and quantitative strands unfold concurrently, each illuminating the phenomenon from a different side. The sampling may overlap or run parallel, depending on what the study demands conceptually. The researcher's positionality becomes one of balance, holding interpretive presence and analytic clarity at once without letting one overshadow the other. And integration in a convergent design is its defining heartbeat. Integration becomes the moment when two pictures of the phenomenon, one textured, one patterned, are laid on top of each other to reveal what neither could show alone. Sometimes the two strands align and strengthen one another. Sometimes they diverge and reveal tension. And sometimes the meaning that emerges from comparing them becomes the central insight of the study. Convergent designs may assign equal weight to both strands, or they may privilege one. But regardless of weighting, the two strands must speak to each other in ways that enrich understanding. A convergent study might examine student engagement by collecting quantitative engagement scores while simultaneously interviewing students to understand what engagement feels like in their daily classroom lives. This design is chosen because meaning and measurement must be heard together. As you choose among these designs, everything returns to the research problem. If the phenomenon is underdefined and meaning must come first, sequential exploratory becomes the exact fit. If the phenomenon is already measurable and the field needs to understand what lies beneath the pattern, sequential explanatory emerges. And if the problem demands simultaneous attention to experience and pattern, the convergent design becomes the clearest path. Mixed methods design is alignment. It is the act of honoring the way the problem is shaped and choosing the design that allows meaning and measurement to work together with coherence and integrity. When the verbs of the problem, the purpose, and the research questions all speak the language of the chosen design, the study moves as a unified whole. The strands become complementary rather than competing. And the phenomenon is understood in a way that honors its fullness. With these designs now clear, you are ready to shape the purpose statement and the research questions that will guide your mixed method study forward. The design gives the study its structure. The purpose gives it its intention. The questions give it direction. And together, they align the entire study with the kind of knowledge the problem requires.